Hello, everybody. My name is Yaman, and I provide daily updates for Tesla, markets, and technology. Let's get started. Markets are up today, 0.9%. Nasdaq is up 1.5%. S&P 500 is up 1%. Russell 2000 also up 1%. Oil prices came down a little bit today. We're going to talk about that. Yields are pretty much unchanged. Let's look at the heat map. NVIDIA is up 2.6%. Chip stocks are also up quite a bit. Tesla is up 1.4%, along with GM and Ford. Meta is up 2%. Oil stocks are down, healthcare is down, and everything else is mixed. Let's read our daily article by Reuters. U.S. stock indices rose on Monday as oil prices retreated after the Israel-Iran attacks left crude production and exports unaffected, allaying investor concerns ahead of Federal Reserve policy meeting. Wall Street indices shed more than 1% on Friday as oil prices surged 7% after Israel and Iran traded airstrikes, feeding investor worries that the combat would widely disrupt oil exports from the Middle East. Crude prices fell more than 3% after touching their highest level since January last week, as the renewed military strikes over the weekend left oil production and export facilities unaffected, offering some respite to investors worried about the resurgence in inflation. U.S. stocks extended gains and crude prices fell further after the Wall Street Journal reported that Iran had been urgently signaling that it seeks to end the hostilities and resume talks over its nuclear programs, sending messages to Israel and the United States via Arab intermediaries. The strikes have continued, but it doesn't seem like the oil markets and shipping lanes have been disrupted. Markets are just calming down a little bit from the big surprise on Friday, said a chief investor officer at Catalyst Funds. Focus will shift to the U.S. Federal Reserve's monetary policy decision on Wednesday, when policymakers are widely expected to keep interest rates unchanged. The Fed Chair Jerome Powell's comments, as well as the central bank's updated projections from the monetary policy and the economy, will come under scrutiny as investors seek clues on the possibility of rate cuts later this year. Money markets show traders pricing in about 46 basis points of a cut by the end of 2025, with a 56% chance of a 25 basis point cut in September, according to CME Group's FedWatch tool. Key data expected this week includes monthly retail sales data, import prices, and weekly jobless claims. Shares of telecom companies T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon were mixed after dipping earlier as Trump organization launched a self-branded mobile network dubbed Trump Mobile. Meanwhile, UPS and FedEx edged up about 1% after Trump Mobile named the companies as shipping partners. Shares of Sarepta Therapeutics plunged 46% after the company disclosed a second case of a patient dying due to acute liver failure after receiving its gene therapy from a rare form of muscular dystrophy. US Steel rose 5% after Trump approved Nippon Steel's $14.9 billion bid for the company. Cisco gained 1.8% after Deutsche Bank upgraded communications equipment maker to buy from hold. Advancing issues outnumbered decliners by 4-1 on the NYSE and 3-1 on NASDAQ. Let's take a closer look at Trump tariffs. Trump tariff live updates. U.S. trade talks with the EU, Canada in focus as G7 kicks off. U.S. trade and tariff talks with the European Union and Canada are in focus to start the week as President Trump attends the G7 summit in Canada. A report in German newspaper Handelsblatt on Monday hinted the EU could agree to a baseline 10% U.S. tariff on all European Union exports in exchange for avoiding higher tariffs on cars, medicines, and electronics. The European Commission denied that report. Meanwhile, Trump said at the first day of the G7 gathering that the trade deal with Canada was possible. We have different concepts. I have a tariff concept. Mark has a different concept, Trump said, standing alongside Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. We're going to see if we can get to the bottom of it today. Canada's exports have been hit hard in Trump's trade salvo so far, as Trump has doubled duties on steel and aluminum imports to 50%. Meanwhile, Canada's auto exports to the US face 25% duties. Some products not included in the country's existing trade agreement also face 25% levies. Trump told reporters last week that he would send soon letters to the trading partners setting unilateral tariff rates, raising questions about the status of negotiations, as well as fears of a possible escalation back to his Liberation Day tariffs that roiled markets. Trump instituted a pause on his most punishing duties that expires July 9. The diverging signals came as the US made key progress with China as the nations agreed to a framework and implementation plan to ease tariffs and trade tensions. Trump and other US officials indicated the deal should resolve issues between the two countries on rare earth mineral exports. Trump said the US would impose a total of 55% tariffs on Chinese goods. Yahoo Finance Ben Workshall reports citing a White House official that Trump arrived at that figure by adding together an array of pre-existing duties and not any new tariffs. Meanwhile, last week, Federal Appeals Court held a decision saying his tariffs can temporarily stay in effect. U.S. Court of International Trade had blocked their implementation last month, deeming the method used to enact them unlawful. I want to read this gas price one first. Yeah, because we just talked about inflation. Gas, any questions, comments, you may leave below the video. Any questions? And I will get to them at the end of this live stream. Gas prices to increase modestly despite recent volatility. Gas prices could go up modestly in the coming weeks, given Friday's 7% oil price spike on the heels of the Israel-Iran conflict, but analysts view any increase as likely short-lived. National average price of gasoline stood at $3.14 per gallon on Monday, up about 2 cents from a week ago and 30 cents lower than a year ago. Keep in mind that gas prices are still 10% below last summer at this point, gas buddy head of petroleum analysis Patrick Dohan told Yahoo Finance. I still think we have a lot of room, even for prices to go up modestly here over the next week or two. On Monday, traders priced in limited impact on the conflict after a Wall Street Journal report indicated Tehran may be willing to return to nuclear talks in order to de-escalate the conflict. Brent crude oil futures fell almost 4% to around $71 per barrel, while West Texas Intermediate futures changed hands at around $70 per barrel. If the market senses that the attacks are coming to an end, prices will drop, said Andy Lippo, president of Lippo Oil Associates, said in a note on Monday morning. In the meantime, gasoline prices are expected to increase about 10 cents per gallon over the next few weeks. Wall Street analysts were quick to point out oil could head to $90 even triple digits if the conflict spilled over into other areas of the Strait of Hormuz, a key shipping waterway between Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman, were to be blocked. We can see right now WTI is around $72. You can see in this graph that despite the plunge when the Wall Street Journal article was published, most of that plunge has been recovered after, I guess, Iran denied the report. All right. Let's go to, I see we have a comment in live chat from Bobby. What do you think about the testing in Austin where the FSD could not recognize a stopped school bus with warning lights and stop signs out? It failed 8 times in a row. How can they put that in public? Yeah, I mean, I actually don't expect Tesla's. I think what's going to happen is, you know what? We'll talk about Tesla in a little bit. Let's go through the articles first, and then at the end, there's a Tesla section. We can talk about that FSD at that point. AI's next big breakthrough could be in healthcare, General Catalyst CEO said. General Catalyst CEO Haman Taneja is looking to shape the future of healthcare through AI. We always think of if you close your eyes and you said 20 years, etc. You know what? I'm going to read the summary on this one. It looks like there's a lot of fluff on this article. General Catalyst believes AI will revolutionize healthcare, making it more proactive, affordable, accessible. The company, a prominent venture capital firm, is investing over $1 billion in healthcare companies, particularly those using AI to reduce costs and improve patient outcomes. Taneja emphasized the urgency of addressing healthcare costs as they are straining state budgets and hindering investment in other societal needs. Yeah. It's also probably one of 2 top sectors that are still keeping employment in the positive. Healthcare and education employment numbers are still, job ads are still positive, whereas everything else pretty much is falling over. Many exporters no longer want dollars, US bank executive says. When Paula Cummings, the head of currency sales at US Bancorp, talks to US importers, she increasingly hears the same message. Their foreign counterparties no longer want to be paid in dollars. Interesting. Instead, they ask for settlements in euros, Chinese renminbi, the Mexican peso, and the Canadian dollar, looking to limit their exposure to further swings in the greenback. Well, the other currencies have even bigger swings, so that doesn't make much sense. A lot of clients previously were reluctant because dollars were sacred in the eyes of the supplier. Now the vibe from overseas vendors seem to be, just give us our currency. While the dollar saw a brief boost amid the turmoil in the Middle East, the currency is still about 8% lower this year against a basket of other currencies. Yeah, I know. I think this would take a long time. Empire State Manufacturing Survey was announced today. This is our first reading into June economic data. So let's take a quick look. Business activity continued to contract in New York State in June. However, employment grew slightly for the first time in several months. Firms also turned positive about the outlook for future business conditions, expecting activity to increase in the months ahead. Okay. You can see the general business conditions. It's been quite low for manufacturing. I don't know if Trump's policies will be able to reverse this. I think there's some underlying trends why this is the case it is in the last decade or so, but I guess we'll see. You can see the current indicators, general business conditions negative, new orders negative, shipments negative, unfulfilled orders fallen, delivery times are about the same, inventories are about the same. Okay, so this is not a great first read on June macroeconomics. All right. Tesla. I think the biggest news when it comes to Tesla right now, the most impactful, most material thing to watch is Chinese automakers, especially Xiaomi, bringing the new product called YU7. This is a direct competitor of Tesla's Model Y, which is where Tesla makes its money. Okay, so you can see here the number of pre-order. This is a comment from the CEO of Xiaomi. The number of pre-order inquiries for the YU7 following its debut exceeded the SU7's performance during the same period. The number of users who had paid a deposit to reserve the SUV was about three times that of the SU7, which is a Model 3 competitor, during the same period, the CEO said. Okay, so SU7 is the vehicle that really slowed down Model 3's momentum in China. It has, in my opinion, it's a better product, has a longer range, more power, better performance, and so many different bells and whistles that the Model 3 does not have. And it comes at a lower price. So it only took a few quarters, less than a year, for SU7 in China to exceed Model 3 sales. And that was the SU7 was the first vehicle Xiaomi ever produced. So some people, understandably, may have been concerned about the vehicle. Despite that, SU7 just catapulted in front of Model 3. The YU7 is the second vehicle Xiaomi has ever produced. And the SUV market is much bigger than the sedan market, even in China. So, in my opinion, YU7, my forecast is that the YU7 will kill Model Y sales in China. So, in the coming weeks, months, and quarters, I think this is going to be the primary story, not FSD. Not FSD, not robotaxis. I think that is all smoke and mirrors for now. Maybe in 5-10 years, Tesla could produce a vision on the robotaxi and kind of ramp around the nation. But right now, FSD simply is not there. FSD technology is not there to be nationwide adoption, which is really what matters, right? I think so. Let's answer Bobby's question. I put it up here on your screens. Bobby's question, Bobby Bishop. What do you think about the testing in Austin? where the FSD could not recognize a stopped school bus with warning lights and stop sign out. It failed 8 times in a row. How can they put that in public? Yeah, it's because it's not reliable enough. Maybe it's not trained for that. Maybe there's something specific off about the what is taken in from its cameras, different than what it's been trained on, and Tesla is going to need, in my estimate, about $100 billion of training compute to get to a point where FSD is reliable enough for nationwide adoption. So at least tens of billions, but by my estimate, $100 billion of training compute, which that money Tesla doesn't have. And because of vehicles like Xiaomi YU7 or BYD's price cuts, and now BYD is producing and building manufacturing capacity around the world, and other vehicles also coming in the US, I don't think Tesla will be able to generate the amount of cash that it needs to train FSD for robotaxi level performance. Currently, according to the Tesla FSD tracker, FSD 13 completes about 98% of trips without a critical disengagement. And we've had hundreds of testers on the FSD entering data into the FSD tracker, thousands of entries, tens of thousands of miles entered. So in my opinion, this is quite a lot, enough data to conclude that FSD is simply not there. So I think what we're going to see in Austin is Tesla is intensely training around a specific route. Like, just think of a bus route. And I think they're going to put maybe 10, 20 vehicles along that bus route, maybe another one. And that's it. But that's not commercial viability. I think that's more of a demo. A demo, what the future may be like 5, 10 years from now. But the problem is Waymo is already expanded across Austin. And they've also expanded in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Phoenix, and now they're coming to Miami and other cities in Texas as well. So Tesla is years behind Waymo in this pursuit. And I just don't think they're going to be able to catch up. I think that ship has sailed. Unfortunately, I wish Tesla got there. I wish Tesla produced 1 million robotaxis in 2020, like Elon said they would. But it didn't happen. All right. And I mean, not only that, if you look at this Tesla price trends, these are used car values. You can see here, the blue line is the automotive industry in the US, average in the US. And the black line is Tesla's used resale values. And this is the table format. You can see every single model that Tesla has. I'm going to remove this comment about it so you can see it. Every single model that Tesla has lost 10% or more in value year over year, even as the average vehicle in the US has gained value. So in the last 90 days, that contrast is even sharper. In the last 90 days, the Model Y lost 4% in just 3 months, 15% in the last 12 months, when an average vehicle in the US actually gained value. These are average listing prices for used vehicles in the US. So I don't see this changing. I don't see this deteriorating fundamentals changing anytime soon. I don't think FSD is going to make much of a difference except for hype on X. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. Follow along for future episodes where we will discuss these things in more detail. Thank you very much, everybody. And I'll chat with you all next time. Take care.